Should we get this kicked off, Will?
Yeah, ready.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Jocelyn Moffat, and I'm the Industry Marketing Manager for our entertainment business at Autodesk. And I'll let you introduce yourself, Will.
Sure, yes, I'm Will Harris. I'm the Flame Family Product Manager. We're glad to be with you today. Thanks for joining us. I hope everyone is staying safe and well. It's certainly an unusual time with all of our developers and all of our staff at home as well, but we're joining you anyway.
And like most of you, our entire team is working from home. And as much as we did today to troubleshoot today's webinar, we ask that you please bear with us if there are any technical difficulties or connection issues. We've done our best to make sure that's not the case, though. So if you just go to the next slide, Will. So first up on our agenda, we're going to invite up the Flame team to introduce themselves. Will's then going to go through the latest updates in Flame, and then we'll follow that with a live Q&A with the team where you can ask all of your questions on those updates. And then we'll hand the floor over to Andy Milkis for LogikFest 2020. I'm sure Andy is a familiar face to many of you, but if you don't know him, he's the co-founder of Logik and the New York Flame User Group, as well as Director of Visual Effects and Technology at LVLY. Over to you, Will.
Okay, thanks, Jocelyn. So yeah, I'm the product manager here, but we wanted to include some of the team today to make this really up close and personal. So I'm happy to introduce, and I'll let them each speak for a few minutes, some key members of the team here. First of all, Francis Billon.
Hi, everyone. Very happy to be here today. For the people that don't know me, Francis Bouillon. I've been around for Flame product for 15 years now. It's not nearly as long as my colleague, but gave me the opportunity to work on a few features here and there. So in 2021, the two things I've contributed to that I would like to present to you are physical defocus and the new machine learning tool we've added, which is called human face extraction. So for physical defocus, it's very happy to deliver that long-awaited feature. We've really worked really hard to include all of the Flame feedback feature we have asked over the year. Also, all the discussion we had with the various artists over the last few years as well. So you'll see when you'll start using the tool that at first glance it's a easy to use tool, but it offers a lot of flexibility and depth for the user that want to dive in. Especially with the physical mode and the advanced slicing option. For the machine learning, it's a we continue the journey here with the human face extraction. So you'll see it's the ability to extract part of the human face using presets. And we also even add a Matchbox tool allowing you to use as a template to define your own customized region. So I hope you'll enjoy those. Thanks.
Thanks, Francis. What about you, Fred?
Hello, I'm Frederic Warren. You may remember me from such a Facebook post as the list of Flame feedback requests implemented in 2020.2 and in 2021. In this release, I've more focused on new tools that we've brought to the FX tab. So we did a lot of cleanup, usability enhancement, but also one of the main pieces, which is the new Explorer, which we'll gonna demo to you. And also, I would like to take the time, as usual, to remind you to please go on flamefeedback.autodesk.com, log your feature requests, vote on the things that is more important to you. As you may have seen in the recent version, we're looking at it. We're trying to do as much as possible and implement them so you can be some happy customers. Thank you and enjoy the presentation.
Thank you. What about the infamous Stéphane Lebris?
I'm doing my white balance. Good. I'm Stéphane from my kitchen. So I take care of media management, editorial interchange, connected conform, and I also have the chance to play with third-party technologies like Sony, Arri, Red Cinema, AGA, Blackmagic Design, and Tangent Panel, which we developed the art panel with them some years ago. For the 2021 release, I had the chance to work with another technology partner, Dolby Laboratories, with whom we developed a quite extensive Dolby Vision mastering environment in the Flame family products. So I also had the chance to work with and collaborate with great facilities around the world, the one who create your favorite movies and OTT that you can see on the different OTT platforms. I hope you will like Flame Family 2021 and make sure to get back to us on the area or on the Flame or Logic on Facebook so we can talk about the features, capabilities, and make them evolve over time. So have fun today, and we'll show you a bit later the Dolby Vision toolset that we developed. Take care, and see you soon.
All right, very cool. Well, none of this is possible without the amazing design skills of these folks. But today we want to introduce you to a few more faces of Flame. Jasmine.
Yes, hi, Will. Hi, everyone. My name is Jasmine Frenette. I'm a software development manager in the Flame team. I've been in the Flame team for the past 20 years. So starting in audio and video I/O group, I was a developer there. And over the years, I got the chance to work on different parts of the application. So I worked on the playback engine, the action manager, the control panels, the scopes and waveforms display, the effects tab, the scene detect tool, batch and action compasses, and a lot more features. So recently, I've been working on low-level graphics architecture, and this year I'm planning on improving Flame's grading workflow along with Fred's team and my fellow developers.
So you pretty much work on everything. And you play most musical instruments, right?
Yeah, I do. I'm a drummer, and I'm also the proud owner of a music recording studio at home.
That's awesome. Very cool. Andre.
Hello. Hi, Will. So my name is André Gagnon. I'm a principal software developer on Flame, and I lead the data management and Dolby Vision team. I started to work on Flame in the late 90s, back in the discrete logic days, much like some of my colleagues here. So I was mostly, I've been mostly coding on back-end services for project management, archiving, the playback engine, the processing pipeline. I would say my priorities are data integrity, performance, collaborative workflows, preserving compatibility, and coughing in my elbows these days. So for the latest release, the 2021, my team and I pursued the development of the GPU import pipeline and also developed the Dolby Vision toolset in Flame, which was an interesting project that covered a lot of aspects of the application, from the timeline to I/O to, so hope y'all like it. And I think that pretty much sums it up. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, Andre, one of the masters of the engine room of Flame, maybe like the Commander Scott. Maybe every time we ask for more, he says, "She can't take no more," but he always does it. That just leaves the famous Grant K.
Well, hi everyone. Obviously, Grant K from the Flame Learning channel. So you may be familiar with hearing my lovely tones over hundreds of hours of video. But you know, now you get to see the face for radio who's behind all this. Obviously, my role in all of this is I'm responsible for you know, all the learning, all the online video learning content that goes out. I've recently released today a new 30-second videos, which you guys can have a look at. And I actually work alongside the Flame documentation. And you know, our job in all of this is to pretty much take this amazing technology that these guys have been creating and translate it into a format which hopefully makes it easy for you guys to learn. So you should hopefully be hearing a lot from me in the near future as well.
Thank you, Grant. I just want to remind you folks that whilst we'll have a kind of a few minutes for Q&A after the presentation, These guys are on the chat, so feel free to start posting questions, and they may even be able to answer them in line. So with that said, let's move on to look at Flame 2021. These are the big sort of highlights that we're going to be featuring. That physical defocus, the GPU accelerated, the newest member of our machine learning family of semantic keyers, as well as the Explorer and other enhancements inside the Effects tab. And then we'll finish up with a look at the Dolby Vision authoring and display toolkit. So I think it's officially demo time. So let me, I'm going to switch over to my Linux laptop here just for a second. And you should be able to then see me working here. Thanks to the guys from Dell for giving us a 7740, one of the latest RTX machines. And what I'll do is I'll just jump right in here, and we're going to go through those 3 areas. So, starting for physical defocus, you might be starting off with some CG renders like we have here. So here's my customary spaceship. And I have a depth pass for that as part of the render, right? Most renderers do that. And I want to comp it with the sky, like you do. And I want to then use physical defocus as a way of taking that depth to apply a cool, fast, interactive depth process. So in order to make the out of focus highlights really glint here, I'm going to use the physical mode of physical defocus. We also have a custom near far defocus as well as an action cam connection. But right now I just want to be able to do things like set the overall world scale. If I bring that down, you're going to see that the environment's going to seem sort of smaller and smaller, and it'll start to look like a model of a ship based on the scale of the scene. If I pick something kind of in the middle there, you could also change artificially change that, the camera's field of view if you want, which can get a bit out of control, and the overall exposure, all changing the optics of how physical defocus behaves. And then finally on this example, I just want to show you how you could tweak the bokeh threshold where it's going to glint, and you can see how that's going to behave. So if I there's some nice bright glints in there. I'm going to then just actually define how I want this to look in terms of the number of spokes on my bokeh, the aperture there, as well as maybe picking a different kind of lens noise to get different looks in the way I like it. So all in all, for a shot like this, you can define a shallow depth of field as you like and deal with out of focus foregrounds, which is one of the challenges that this tool definitely addressed, as well as just a nice, fast, interactive feel. Slightly different example. When you're trying to do something with some super high quality renders coming from Arnold here, this is some of the human models that are part of Maya and Arnold. Of course, I've got some advanced render passes here, including super accurate depth, and then there's normals, there's crypto matte, there's world pass, all that good stuff. What I want to do here today, though, is I want to be able to combine it with a background and defocus it. And this is a place where physical defocus is being used in the context of action, and is being able to, you can just set the thing that you want in focus here. But just to kind of take you on a little tour here, what you can see is that I've got my renders in an environment that has got a flat substance ground as well as an IBL in the background, so a mixed environment of 2D and 3D, if you will. And then I want to be able to take the whole mess, as I would say, the whole environment, and in an interactive way be able to defocus and refocus the sections that I want. And because we're in action here, and I've got an animated camera that actually came with the render, I'm able to then come in here and say, okay, I want to set near focus here, look at some of the functions I've got here. I can connect to the action camera, I can use literally the action camera's settings, or I can override that and set depth based on what I want to pick, or I could use some of the camera's attributes to adjust how I want this to look. Now, this might seem a little weird. If you're kind of changing what was there for the render, but this might be something where artistically you want to change how this actually works. So these examples so far then have been with CG renders, but what I might like to do is to use some of Flame's tools that understand how to generate depth from live action content. So this is just a shot on film, if you remember that. And we've got kind of a confusing set of focus here. I've got some things in focus, some things that are out of focus based on just the nature of the shot. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the depth there to the depth analyzer, which is ML depth map, as a matchbox to generate depth for this shot. So it might look a little different. It's going to be live action, so it's not going to be as perfectly clean as a CG render, but that's expected. And what it'll do is it'll allow us to quickly defocus or refocus the area of the scene that we want. So I'm now in the custom mode of physical defocus, where I want to just define, okay, in the foreground, I want to take the near defocus even more out of focus and crazy out of focus if I want. But this is all just part of how you could then define something like this, a static scene that you wanted to work on. One more example here, where you're just building a comp of a foreground and background here, and then I want to take that and just spill suppress a little and give myself the look that I want. Depth analysis on the original plate to be able to then see how I could take a shot that, it probably was never intended to be defocused, but I'm artificially adding that depth of field based on an understanding of depth, right? So I can come in here. I'm losing my sky highlights at the moment because I want to, I need to set my world scale so that it behaves somewhat rationally here. But this would allow me to, to see something maybe more like what I'm trying to achieve for the shot. So physical defocus with CG content, but also available via using the depth generator with live action content. Let's move on and take a look at some other stuff in Flame 2021. And I wanted to take you through the overall enhancements that we've been doing here in the Effects tab. So if you're starting a project, you are at the point of conform, and perhaps the next thing you do is to look at all the shots and look at color, look at framing, look at reviewing the timeline is another use that we think Effects tab would certainly be useful for. And I want to introduce you a little bit slowly here, but we're going to get going pretty fast, to the different aspects of this, as well as the new things. So I'm looking at a specific layout here where I've got like a visual storyboard, and I've just got my result view there. I can jump through my shots. But this layouts view can be highly customized, and I've added, as you can see, 10 different layouts that I like to use commonly, and I'm going to jump through them as I go via these hotkeys. So for example here, if I wanted to see my manager tool, which is how I'm going to navigate through layers of adjustment, I can see it. If I want to see my keys or my selectives, I can do that. If I want to see a reference split, which we're going to come back to in a second, if I want to see my scopes, I want to see my HDR scopes. These are all presets and things that I can set for myself. The new kid here is the Explorer area. So this area up here can be set up left or right, and we call it the Explorer. It's a tool that allows you to view both still grab references as well as your saved timeline effects, TL effects, that you can drag to and drag from in pretty sophisticated ways. So if I were to just start looking at some shots in my sequence and decide that I need to make color adjustments or make match someone else's work, those kind of things that you might be doing in the context of Flame. The first thing you might reach for might be a reference. So this is a great new function. I can just select one of these, and I'm now seeing my reference split here. It could be that I've got a reference of a different piece of content, or it could even be that I'm just looking at one of these shots grabbed from a still that the client gave me. I might even go further to actually start making the shot look good, but of course, I need to see them kind of in context. I want these people to look like these people. So we've added some cool functions here to this, where you can size this up, you can move this around, and even if this is not a great quality still, it doesn't matter. You can still just put it where you want it, line it up, and you can see how this is just a neat way to be able to compare the different aspects. And if I can just put it in the right place here. There we go. So now I could actually start the business of adjusting color, getting to a look that I like on my footage, adding that bit of saturation, maybe using my entire tool here. If you haven't seen this full screen view, this is quite a cool way to do it. And then I'm getting a bit closer to the look that I want, and maybe that's one way to use a reference. These can be grabbed anytime you like. You could make a new one. Just with a grab, you can include your view transform if you want. That then adds what you just did to your references. These can be viewed anywhere in the software, including batch. It's more a global reference system. So then TL effects, slightly different. What we'll do is we'll just have a look at how you would use this. So I might want to store what I did here, and I can do that anytime I want. Just drag it to here. It's going to add it down to the bottom. This is my cool-ish look, but maybe I want to try out my, a neutral look, or a really cool look here. I'm just going to drag these in, and I can see this whole thing, including my warmish look that I like here. At that point, of course, I can step on down the timeline or select the entire timeline if I want and start dragging and dropping the look. We've improved the performance of this area a lot in recent versions, so you can see that it's now pretty quick to jump around and get stuff done. So in a shot like this, the next thing I want to talk about was how you naturally are going to want to define a look here that maybe you've got the look that you want for your people, but you can't easily do that and the windows at the same time. So naturally, this is where you would start breaking apart the image. You can't easily just drop highlights because you're going to affect the highlight on the faces that you don't want to affect. So this is where we would probably use our layering system. And remember, I said I have a layout for that. This is the manager layout, where I can then say, okay, I want to add another layout here, and I want to start doing some shapes. We have some new default shapes here. So you can add a circle if you want to here, place that in the area of the scene you want, and immediately be able to darken that if that's what you want to do. So this is where I would start using these kind of tools, and you can start to see the things you would do in Flame in this area. There is another preset there, and there's a hotkey as always. Let's do this. Let's do on top of this. Let's do a square as well. Starting there, I'm going to add. There it is. Did I get the right, one key away from perfect, huh? All right, so that's good. So there we are. And then that's my window. The reason I'm going to this trouble is just so that you can see it's easy to grab these things, but it's all really to lead you to something else that I want to show you, which is that once you do this kind of work on a shot, you've separated out your layer 1 as your overall look, your layer 2 as your tracked elements. You can see them here. If I did a similar thing on a different shot, it could be challenging then to migrate the pieces between them. And what I mean by that is that I now want to, let's say I did something on this shot, and I'm just going to, in the interest of time, I'm just going to grab one I made earlier so you can see. So what we did on this shot was we actually grabbed a we wanted to do a shape that, there we go, should be, how about this? Not going to work for me today, huh? Sorry about that. This is indeed it. Okay. All right. Well, let me just drag one on to illustrate the point here. So, if I did something else like that on my window here, the challenge is how do you change the underlying look without breaking all the tracking and the work that you did on your shot. So if this is the thing I'm trying to do, and I've taken the trouble to to darken the window here as I like, but now I need to be able to say, okay, the next thing I want to do is I want to make the whole thing look a completely different color. I want to change it. I want to go super cool here. How am I going to then migrate that onto a different shot? So the problem is if I were to put this over like that onto this shot, it's actually going to give me the shapes and the setups that I had here that I don't necessarily want. So I'm going to undo that, and I'm going to save this cool look, number one. I'm going to put that into my area here. So then this is actually the magenta look. And then I can come over to a different shot that I have been doing work on that I don't want to destroy, and then drag just that. See how it says number one there? In, and that's going to give me that cooler look without messing with my shapes. So that is a cool thing to do with your Explorer bin, if you'd like. It'll store any kind of timeline effects. So last thing to show you on this timeline was something cool that we do that's kind of outside the norm of what you might do in a normal color grading environment. If you're thinking that was all just color grading and shapes, you're right. It's being made more ergonomic here in Flame 2021. But something that's special about Flame, a unique selling point, if you will, is some of the special keyers that we have and some of the tools that we can use to isolate. So the semantic keyer, I just want to show you this example as it really works really well on a bunch of shots here. So what I want to do is I want to isolate the human body, let's say, on a bunch of shots here. And this is me starting the ML for the shot, and you can see how it pretty quickly is able to decipher that. This would allow me to just brighten up the foreground character slightly, or if I wanted to, I could then instead I could just desaturate the background, let's say. So this was an effect that we wanted to highlight the people in an otherwise beautifully graded element shot. And then maybe we wanted to even add a bit more to it. We wanted to like defocus that. Because remember, in this environment, it's not just color. You can do other things, right? So I could defocus, or I could add rays around them. All that stuff is totally possible. And then, of course, I could come in here and I could say I want to just apply that to these 4 shots. And it's quite astounding how well that keyer works, including like people obscuring them in the foreground. If I go back to here, you can see what's happening where whilst it's not a perfect solve here, it's amazing what it picks up. And then as we jump down the timeline, this shot, it's able to isolate her as well. A little bit of tweaking might be needed for sure, but it's certainly pretty cool. And then finally, as we get to the end of our timeline, I just wanted to then talk about our face keyer, because that's kind of a special case. So where you've got humans isolated here, I'm going to switch over to our newest tool, which is the human face extraction tool. And that is quite incredible, actually, how accurately it'll grab a face. I'm not sure we're going to want to have all this blurring, but it'll give you a good idea. So it's changing machine learning algorithms to analyze this based on human face training. Okay, so this is a pretty cool thing. All right, so there we go. So we'll just just remove the blur for now. And then I'm going to just bring back the keyer normal way. So now we've got this kind of nice face mask look on her. It's quite kind of crazy how well it follows. And of course, this is the skin. We could also switch to just the forehead, just the nose, and so on. And it's pretty powerful what you can do, and even more powerful with close-up faces. So let me take a second here to show you a few more examples of what we have to do with faces. It's pretty neat, actually. Okay, so for faces, I've got a whole bunch of different kind of faces here. The idea is that you can take a shot here. You can use this as an individual batch node as well, but this is integrated in my tool if I want it. So I could then do adjustments here on these dark shots, and it's worth seeing it kind of built from scratch, I think, so you can see how it looks. From a shot that was pretty plain, a bit noisy, what I can do here is I could then start building up looks based on that key, right? So I'm going to say human face, and I want to see, first of all, skin. So there it is. And this might be a good overall adjustment. It might be something where I need to bring up certain amount. I duplicate that up to a higher layer now, but I'm going to focus in on things like nose. So specifically a nose on a shot like this might really help to make the shot look less flat, and like as if they'd somehow kind of kept a light just on her nose. So pretty powerful, the kind of things that I might be able to do here. I could change color, but I could just give it a little bit of definition here, might be what I want. Grab another layer, and then this time I'm going to use T-zone. So T-zone is this area of the face, which we maybe we don't need all of the T-zone. Maybe we just want the forehead, which is the same thing but without the nose. And then this might be another adjustment that we make. Maybe we add in our A2 Beauty tool at this point, as we have some little bit of sort of acne maybe happening here that we don't want on our talent. So this is a great job for A2 Beauty. It's something that can quickly solve. Hopefully that's a bit extreme, but hopefully on the webcast you can see that. I'm going to bring it back to a reasonable amount to just smooth the skin but keep the texture. So that's a cool technique. It's something that we'd want to do there. We'd go further. We might duplicate this and actually then do a kind of a skin, cheeks, upper lip, laugh lines, all those kind of things could also be worked on. So if I just switch over to what we call the shine zone, that's going to give me all of the above. One last thing on this shot that's kind of neat is the eye analysis. So if I wanted to, I could look at eyes generally. This is a beauty shader, which I might want to invert to give me extra clarity. But maybe that's a bit too much. Maybe what I'll do here is actually show you one other thing I was looking at here, which was the ability to look at the whites of the eyes. So this is pretty crazy, isn't it? That it'll solve eye whites on a shot. So there it is, and you can adjust the look and feel of that. But my goal here, of course, is to just give a natural amount. It'll be easy to do it unnatural here, of detail to her eyes. There you go. So something like that maybe is going to give us something that they wish they could capture on set that I'm able to capture in the shot. All right, as we look down our timeline here, it would be naturally pretty easy to drag and drop this onto the next shot, which is a different take of the same setup. But the cool thing is that we're going to be able to get that look and feel. Maybe the eye whites thing is a little over the top there. If we drag it onto the next shot, I'm going to need to darken it for sure. But that's okay. I planned that out, right? So my base layer here is adjustable, and I need a little less saturation. But what I've got here, different aesthetic, is some pretty clean looking footage here. If I were to just turn little pieces off here, you'll be able to see how it affects skin. Hopefully that's visible to you guys. And you might have some very specific problems. Like here, you might have a little laugh line, a little upper lip trouble. It's possible to fix these things digitally. So I'm going to actually go to my full screen view here, and I'm going to grab another one of these. But this time I want to work on the actual laugh creases. So laugh creases, we don't want to, what we want to do now is we probably want to do a combination of a beauty shader that's not inverted and probably a bit less color stuff. So this will give you an idea of how you could potentially remove laugh lines with this tool. And that was a bit subtle, but it's in there. Let me see if I can show you again. Let's just over crank this so that you can see. There we go. That might be really easier to see now that we've got detail that we can bring back, and then we might then convert this to actually see to do upper lip as well. So with all these different presets of the Kia, you're able to see quite a lot on you. So upper lip is here. There it is. So there we go. So pulling back, let's just come back to the whole shot here. We've got elevated eyes, we've got skin detail. I think I may have overdone it a little bit up there, but hopefully you get the idea that you've got a lot of power and no tracking, no manual manipulation. This is just a few seconds worth of rendering, as you can see by the scrub. It's a power tool, hopefully, for this kind of work. Last thing on beauty, I just want to quickly show you a little deeper example, which we'll just tour. Here inside of BFX, if you had a situation like this where you actually had kind of quite a specific kind of mole on the face that may or may not want to be there, this is kind of a specialized case where there's none of our presets will actually work. So what about exposing, as we do, the template? So what you have here is you have the actual stencil. You can have just the nose effect, just the lips. And let's just take, for example, eye bags. Some people may have bigger eye bags than others. Can't believe we're all sitting around talking about this. But check it out. Pixel spread could be used to stretch out those eye bags if you wanted. You could see, use the different functions of good old tools like this to get something that you wanted different. Okay. In this case, it was more about having a paint stroke that was stencil, based on the stencil, in just the right space, and that allowed us to connect in to here, and then there it is. So you can see that stuff dealt with. Last thing, in an advanced scenario here, what you might need is you might need to do something like this, where you need to be able to do normals extraction at the same time as this. So what we got here is we've got the normals being extracted and combined with the selective. So if you take, I've got the skin here, right? Skin left side, and I've got a 3D AOV normals that are comboing up, and you can see that will give me the ability to actually change lighting of a region of the face, nuanced by normals. Okay, so this would be a powerful use of it. I think I could then refine that down to look at just the nose, but again with the understanding of normals, that's going to let me isolate and just relight a nose in a dark scene like this if I wanted. Okay. I can see time is running late, so I must skip ahead here, and I'd like to take a quick look at some of the Dolby Vision tools that we have. One thing to think about as you're getting later in your project here, and maybe you've started to get to a good-looking image, is you might want to think, and it's in my preset here. If I look through the scopes. You might want to think about the levels right? So if you're going to remaster a project like this, I realize this is a Home Depot commercial, and it may not be remastered in HDR yet, but it's got a lot of daylight stuff and lots of bright backgrounds, which certainly lends itself to what we want to do here. So on a shot like, like let's take this one right here. So we're definitely in the Rec 709 world here, 100 nits. That's not going to fly in Dolby land, right? We need to be able to do HDR mastering, and the way that we work, whether it's working floating point, log, PQ naturally, that's where we're going to end up when we do HDR mastering. So what I did is I just put some looks together here so that you can get an idea of how things would look when you did master it that way. So you can see up here on my scopes, I'm now moving beyond the world of 100 nit Rec 709. I'm working in the native color space of the camera, which is a perfectly good way to work here. Log C Alexa, and then I'm just have a quick look at one or two more things here, and then I'm going to show you the directly how you then prepare this for a Dolby Master. So you might have received graded material, you might be doing it yourself, but you're going to want to look at whatever you've been given with an analytical eye in terms of not just video scopes, 0 to 1, but HDR scopes. So here's the actual, the Dolby standard vector scope and waveform, or HDR generally, but specifically we're going to be thinking about mastering probably up to 1,000 nits and maybe beyond. And we might even bring out some of our references from earlier to just understand what, sorry, wrong button. Andy will be covering that in a second. I just want to sort of highlight that, as I look at my content here, let's just roll onto maybe this shot here. Much brighter. Compare it to the reference. You're going to really understand what I mean. This blue highlight here is, the blue overlay is, you start to understand the difference between something that looks great in Rec 709 versus where it needs to look to deliver highlights way up there beyond that 100 nits value. So let's just take a minute here and do the Dolby process. It's simply a case of selecting what you got and adding, either importing or creating an HDR track. Import if someone else had already done a pass and created Dolby metadata, or create from a start here. I'm actually going to do it from there. And what I'm doing now then is I'm about to look to either import someone else's analysis, like we said. You can do that here. You can line it up at timecode. You can do quite a lot of cool things there. You can export it when you're done, and of course you can, if you have a license, which is a site license, so your Dolby license for other software tools will work with Flame. It's then that you're able to modify the trims. But first things first, if you didn't do analysis, you need to analyze, and you can do that on all shots. This is a kind of a min-max and average analysis that's happening based on the requirements of Dolby to then be able to define trims. It's fast. It's faster than real time, actually. This is 3K, 3.5K material on a laptop. So that's how fast it is. And what we're able to do then is, at that point, we've now got something we can work with. And this is when you would then say, okay, well, I don't need my reference anymore. I'm moving into a world of just how I want it to look, right? So at this point, what I want to do is I want to just use the trims to define how things should look. And if I just come back to the right mode here, it's going to make sense. Okay, let me just, I need to do that one more time, sorry. Rushing now. Hopefully all the questions were answered as we went along. And I'll just take one more minute here to just explain that this is how we would then step into our individual shots here and adjust gain to suit ourselves, trimming each individual shot if you want. And then when all is said and done, you can export. Quickly mention that there's the ability to connect to an external CMU or output through HDMI tunneling. That's going to send the Dolby metadata for trim to your HDR TV as you work, whereas the ICMU will allow you to bake in the look of this trim into a given profile. So if you're working in the ST2084 output, you could do that here as well. All right, so there's a lot more to Dolby Vision than we have time to tell you. Hopefully that just gives you an idea of what we've been up to. Sorry for running a bit late, but I'm going to now stop my share and hand it back over here. So 1 sec, there's that.
All right, and I think we'll use about 5 minutes for Q&A here. I know that the Flame team has been frantically answering lots of questions. We've also seen lots of great feedback and feature requests coming in through the chat.
Cool.
If anyone has questions they haven't put into the Q&A yet, feel free to add them now, and we'll bring up the Flame team to answer for the next 5 minutes. And in the meantime, there's one question that came up right at the beginning that I thought would be good to call out here, even though it was answered in the chat as well. So someone asked, I'm a full-time 3D guy working in Maya and Max as a freelancer. I have seen some interesting things come out of Flame, but I'm not sure how it fits in a pipeline or what the skill set of users is. Can you provide a simple answer to that?
I think I could do that. I wonder if they're asking about a compositing pipeline or a finishing pipeline. I'm guessing that means a compositing pipeline. Maybe they could tell us.
Overview of where Flame would come into a pipeline with Max and Maya.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, after is the short answer, I suppose, in that you typically would be perhaps integrating 3D renders with live action content, probably the most often use for Flame. But there are workflows with Maya that allow you to do scene interop, where you can start a 3D model. Maybe you want to do some 3D graphics. You could start it in Flame, and then you can send it via what we call the send to workflow, which is basically a smart FPX exchange that would allow you to then do more editing and animation of the 3D environment, 3D model, and then send it back to Flame for lighting and rendering. There's a few different pipelines out there in that regard, I would say.
Great, and this one's for Grant, I think. I would be the best person to answer this one. Regarding Dolby, where's the best place to start if you want to learn more or actually start learning the new Dolby workflows?
Well, I would say, you know, in my case, when because obviously I had to learn Dolby Vision as well before I could actually talk about it. The best starting point is to actually go to Dolby themselves and research all their materials that they have to offer to actually give you a good fundamental grounding. Because we developed the Dolby Vision tools in Flame in correlation with Dolby Vision, with Dolby Laboratories themselves. So, the tool set is the same. There's familiarity with the tools. So the best way to get the grounding is to go straight to the source who created the technology in the first place. And then come to Flame.
Another question for you, Will. We had a few people asking about the hardware being used for this demo.
Sure. Yeah, this is a Dell 7740, sponsored to us by those nice guys at Dell. It has an RTX 5000 in it, which makes it significantly faster to use than older generations of hardware like Z840 and Z820. I noticed quite a difference coming from Z840 to this. But I ought to point out this is not a certified standard machine for Flame. This is just a a new promo laptop. The new standard machines are we have the recipe on our website, and the typical machines are the HP Z8 G4, the Dell 7920 Tower, as well as a rack mount version, Dell 7920 rack server unit, which are the real Flame machines.
So, all right, we have about 1 more minute before we'll hand things over to Andy. Flame team, were there any other questions that came up in the chat that you wanted to address live right now?
I'm just having a look. Looks like
a lot.
Lots. Thank you so much, guys. I'm so glad you were all here. Certainly, that. I mean, as someone, go ahead, Fred.
Yeah, maybe a quick mention. Like a lot of people ask, like where to start learning Flame. So people who don't really know Flame at all. So the best resources would be probably to have a look at the different videos that Grant has on the Flame Learning channel on YouTube. There's also some collections there, like the Flame 101 videos that were done. Maybe they're not like as recent as Flame 2021, but they explain you some of the concept. There are also some great people offering some training, like Sibylle Cooney in LA. So maybe it's a resource that you can have a look at.
Indeed, the Flame Learning channel that Grant has been heading up there is full now of a wide variety of starter and advanced content. And don't forget that there is this 30-day trial. We just launched a new 30-day trial of the very software that you're looking at a couple of weeks back. And there is, if you're in education, there's the 3-year educational version of all Autodesk products, including Flame for Mac or Linux. If you'd like to take advantage of that. So with that said, it's time to get to the fun part of enjoying the community that is really what makes Flame an amazing product that we've celebrated. And some of these folks are actually in the graphic here. We're going to meet them live now. Over to you, Andy.
Well, thank you, Will. I've spent the last 20 minutes or so reassessing the size of the eye bags that, that I've been growing in the course of the last 2 months. But a great presentation and a bunch of amazing stuff in the 2021 release. And I just want to echo something that Fred brought up during his presentation, the Flame feedback portal. The link came up in the chat, I think at least once or twice. If you have any suggestions for features, please throw them up there. The community goes and votes for the ones they like. And with every new release, Fred puts out this incredible list of features that have been added based on user feedback. And it's just, it's unlike anything else. So I would highly recommend that. And bravo to the whole development team. It's really, you guys have just done a fantastic job. So thank you much. My name is Andy Milkis. I'm the Director of Visual Effects and Director of Technology at LVLY, which is a visual effects, design, CG, live action studio with offices in New York and LA. And as Jocelyn mentioned at the top, I'm the co-founder of the New York Flame User Group, and I'm one of the admins of the Logic User Group over on Facebook. Let me just share my screen here for the first of many times. Right. Before we start with getting into LogikFest, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the Flame community. I often tell people that being a Flame artist is the best job in the world, and a big part of that is due to my extended family on Logic and in the user group community. You know, we started the New York user group 7 years ago, and that led to other artists starting user groups in LA, Atlanta, Chicago, Dallas, Detroit, Toronto, London, Berlin, Madrid, Sao Paulo, and Sydney, just to name a few. You know, the user groups are a wonderful opportunity for artists to meet and share ideas and network. And that spirit, the user group spirit, led to the Facebook group with nearly 4,000 members now. If you're not a member of Logic yet, please be sure to sign up over on Facebook. That's Logic with a K. And through Logic, we've organized annual parties at NAB and IBC. And for the past 6 years, we've run our One Frame of White contest, which is the single greatest creative challenge of all time. After this webinar, check out oneframeofwhite.com and see what the best visual effects artists in the world are capable of when they have all the tools of Flame at their disposal. So, we can't meet in person right now, which is unfortunate, but in response to that, we launched Logic Live, which is a weekly virtual user group where artists from around the world have been gathering to share knowledge and to give back. You can find all of the past Logic Live episodes and a schedule of what's coming up and a ton of other Flame-related content at our new website, which is logic.tv. And the idea of sharing tips and tricks, is at the heart of the user group experience. And that was the idea behind LogikFest. So 13 Flame artists from around the world contributed their best tips and tricks. Logic members voted for their favorites, and top 5 entries each won a 1-year license of both Mocha and Sapphire, courtesy of Boris Effects. And let's jump now over to LogikFest. So a quick rundown of the format. We're going to present the 5 winning entries for LogikFest. All 5 of the artists are online with us today here on the webinar. Some are going to present their entries live, and some will show their entry via video, but they're all here and all available for questions. So be sure to add your questions to the Q&A section here in the webinar. So first up is Nicola Cutter from Vancouver.
Hello, Andy.
Hello, my friend. How are you?
Good, you?
Good, thank you.
Nice to meet you. To see you.
Yes, nice to virtually see you. You had a fantastic technique for adding grain to a comp. You want to take us through that?
Yeah, we can look at this together. Let me just share my screen. And here we go. We remove this. We're going to see everything. Can we just move this too? Great. So, you hear me?
Yes, sir. Loud and clear.
Perfect. So, this is a little trick that I found when I got difficulty to regrain a shot when it's really denoise, or like the noise is really big or compressed. Sometimes it's really hard to regenerate the grain. So I was in a situation where there were no good tool to regenerate the grain, so I had to figure out a way to make it without any special tool. So I was like, I need to figure out. So usually when I comp, I'm going to do a denoise with neat video most of the time to do all my comp in denoise. And so first of all, I just did a basic comp. We have this image here, and I just did a blur on it. So we have a comp on this, and now we have no grain on that. First of all, we're going to do a subtract from the original with the grain. So this one get grain, and we get the other image without grain, and we end up with the grain all separated here. So often what we could do, you could re-put this grain over your comp, and you're gonna have exactly the same as the original grain put back over. Except we have this issue here, because the grain is not exactly the same. Those detail has been changed. So we cannot really reuse that grain. So we need to resample that grain, regenerated it. So I found an easy way to do it. It's with a 2D transform. What I do with a 2D transform, I just set a canvas resolution different. So a 300 is basically a crop I do in it. And I put my filter in nearest here. So now I crop in the green screen, and I just find a place that is even in the green. So like that, we have a noise that it's even overall. And the good thing that we could do after this, it's another 2D transform, that I just take this, and by clicking T on the resolution original, I come back with the same resolution as my original, and I put tile repeat. So this is this to repeat. So now we have a big grain covering the whole surface, and it's even. So then we can put this back over here. So you see this is matching pretty good. To know where I'm putting back this grain though, what I do is the original and the comp. So we have a mat, this is a difference mat basically. I do a 2D histogram luminance keyer basically on this to know where the image change. And this is where we're putting back the grain, exactly here. Now, for now, you see it's matching, it's really nice here, but it doesn't really fit really well with the face. So to fix that, what I do is that I adjust the dark and the highlight of the grain to grade the grain basically. I take a 2D histogram of my new comp, and I invert the histogram, and I just select the dark area. And with the dark area here, I'm adjusting it so I can darken a little bit my grain. We're going to do the same thing with the highlight. Take a histogram, and then we can see we're adjusting the grain to match well. So, and then I recomp on my grain. And the good thing this way, I can see really well my grain separately, and I can really match it, and I can adjust it to really the one I want. So it's really easy to see it separately. Here we have a little issue. There's some little black line took where we reverted, and I just re-put over the original grain in max lighten, sorry. And then we have a perfect grain redone. Now the only thing we need to do back is to put back over the grain in additive mode. And now we have a really smooth grain that matched perfectly. And the good thing with that, we can reuse it for mostly any kind of technique. Like any kind of grain that has been used. I use it on really like web footage that was super compressed that it's really hard to regenerate the grain. One more thing I could do that I didn't say in my previous tutorial, it was like let's see if you have this grain that you generate, it's not long enough for the whole sequence. So you can just take a mux and you could repeat, let's say from frame 1 to 20, you want to ping pong this. So you're gonna have you can ping pong, and you're gonna have the same grain repeat if you don't have enough of grain regenerated. So let's see something generate your grain for the whole sequence. So that's about it. So little tricks. Now we have the grain smoothed out.
That's so great, man. I was doing. I love the technique, of course, using neat video to subtract the grain and then add the grain or add the noise rather to the end. I was working on some wire removal shots a couple of months ago, and removed the noise with neat. Went ahead and painted out, or however it was, all the wires. And then when I put the noise back on top, the original noise back on top, the wires came back.
Exactly.
Because they were so small. And this is just a great technique because I was jumping through hoops to try to find pieces of similar grain that I could use, and then kind of patch my own grain pass. But this would have come in very handy. This is wonderful.
And the good thing, this works, I will say, 90% of the time in any kind of shot. This is the thing that is pretty great, and it's super fast.
That's great. Wonderful.
Great.
Does anybody have any questions for Nicola? All right, well, we'll keep an eye on the Q&A section. Thank you so much, Nicola.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right, we're going to now head over to Christoph Zapletal from Hamburg. Christoph gave one of the best presentations I've ever seen for our 3rd episode of Logic Live. Christoph, how you doing, my friend?
Good. I'm blushing here with all the compliments, but thanks, man. It's great. Yeah.
Well deserved.
Thanks so much.
You've got a tip about bookmarks, right?
Yeah, I thought I'd pick the most boring topic there is out there. So with everybody else showing out this really great techniques, and there's great stuff on all the entries to LogikFest. So I thought, well, we all need to adjust to working from home and setting up our own workstation. So I thought I'd do something like in that spirit. So I'll share my screen here. And as you can see, I've got 3 different projects set up here, and those are dummy projects now, but these tend to have the same exact folder structure all over again. So they've got their rushes folder, their edits folder, their export folder, and so forth, and so forth. And usually, when you start a job in Flame, what I tended to do was, okay, I load in my rushes, so yeah, I bookmark the rushes folder. And later on, I load in the graphics, and I bookmark the graphics folder. And each and every time on each job, I started to making up the same bookmarks, but they each ran in a different order in which I loaded in material. And then I think with the release of the new Bookmark Manager, I saw bits of this in a video by Grant Kay, so big shout out to him, how to set up bookmarks once and for all. And there's only one prerequisite for that, and that is that you have to name your Flame project exactly the same name as the project on your file structure. If that is for some reason not possible, if for example, your facility demands that your Flame projects are named in a specific manner, then you can also utilize the project nickname. So I'll show you how this works. So we'll take this project here, because the other 2, I already got them here in Flame. So we'll take, no, excuse me, this one. So we'll take this one and create a new project for this in Flame. So I'll just command copy this, and then make a new project here in Flame and control paste that in here, and create a new project. Now, as I said before, if you want to, you can give a nickname here that, of course, would need to be exactly the same name as the folder structure. So it would be like that as well, but we'll use the name. So let's create that project, start that up. And I'll go to the Media Hub, navigate to that project, and I'll just make 3 quick bookmarks. So I'll bookmark the rushes folder. I'll bookmark the edits folder. And I'll bookmark the graphics folder. Like that. So now, normally, I would bookmark all the places I need for each of my projects, but I guess you have things to do tonight, so we'll keep it to 3 bookmarks. And now, once you've got all those set up, you enter the Bookmark Manager. And what you need to do now for this to work is basically 2 things. The first thing is shift-click all the bookmarks you want to edit, because you can actually bulk edit these, which is great. And then you tab in here, and you just exchange this part here for a token. Now these tokens are everywhere now in Flame, but these tokens aren't integrated into the GUI, so that is why probably not so many people use this, but it's really, really handy. So you just delete that and replace it with these arrow brackets and type the token project, like that. Now we change that, and now you can see all 3 bookmarks have been changed. And right now they reside in our project. Now, if we would leave them here, they would just be available in this project, which pretty much would defeat the purpose of the whole thing. So what we can do is we can drag them either to our user folder, then we have them for our own, or if we are feeling generous, we can put them into the shared folder, and then they would be available for every user on that workstation. So let's put them into my user folder like that. And I just want to quickly point out, if you're inclined to do so, and if you've got a lot of bookmarks, you can actually use the Bookmark Manager to put up folders or to make your bookmarks only available in certain areas. So this is really, really powerful. Okay, but we'll leave it at that for now. And now these bookmarks are available here. This is what we would expect. So if you take a look up here, this is our current project. And now I'll switch to one of the two that I created earlier. This will take a moment.
Christoph, this is such a great thing, man. I remember, like when tokens first came out, I was just apprehensive because it was something new.
Yeah, exactly.
But this was the kind of example that showed me the possibility. And then, once I learned about them here, I'll let you finish now that the project's launched, I'll let you keep going. I can stop filling time.
No, it's all good. So now, as you can see, those are available here, but they, of course, lead to that appropriate project. So you've set them up once and you're good to go. And you'll, as long as you use the same folder structure on each project, you're good to go. And if you're setting up your own workstation, I'm using a little tool called Post Haste, which is free. And there I've got a template for my Flame jobs. And once I create a job, I basically fill in which client, which name, and then Post Haste creates that folder on my file structure, and I'm good to go. So setting up something like this takes 2 minutes.
That's great. Yeah, so the tokens are available like all throughout the app now. And again, once I realized how they could be used here, this is one of those like revelation moments. You see this demo that you've done and you're like, oh my God, it's these little things that are usability that affect you 1,000,000 times a day. But I quickly figured out you could use the same tokens to standardize names, to standardize how things are exported. So your exports or pre-renders or write-outs or whatever they are can all go in the same, in the same folder structure within the project.
Exactly.
And, Quinn brought up in the chat here that, you have the option here of using the project token or the project nickname token. So like at LVLY, we sometimes have a different, especially for jobs that go on for a long, long time. We might have to vary up the project name to make it different from the job folder name, but we can always keep the nickname as like the same thing that's on the server or the job folder. So that way the bookmarks stay consistent even across multiple projects that are shared for the same thing. So great job, man.
Cool.
I'm sorry. Could you repeat the name of that app that you use to create?
Oh, that's I'll open up for you. That's Post Haste. Let me take a look. It's up here, down here. So basically, you can create templates for various jobs. So I've got my Flame template right up here on top, and in those templates, you define which folders you want to create. So that's my folder structure. And then you've got your project number, which increments automatically. You can set up a date format. You can set up your name as an editor or whatever. So it's pretty handy. And once you create project, in the settings, you defined where Post Haste should create that project. So in my case, that's my projects folder on my RAID. And then it creates that thing.
Oh, that's great, man. Excellent.
Cool.
Thanks so much, Christoph. Appreciate it.
Pleasure.
All right. Next up, we have Fumiro Sato from New York. Fumiro, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Oh, great. Fumiro submitted a brilliant technique for dealing with like the jagged edges that sometimes you get even on really well-shot footage. And it was a perfect technique for keying, whether it's additive keying or well, the other kind of keying, whatever. Keying,
Yeah.
I guess, right?
Yeah.
So let me bring up Famiro's submission here so we can check it out.
Today I want to show you a little tip on how to refine a dirty green screen edge, especially a jaggish edge. Sometimes you have to comp not the best condition plate or high chroma difference costume, especially red costume like this green plate. As you can see, there's a little bit of an artifact on the edge of the subject, and the hair hurts jaggy too. How can you fix that? So to make this edge looks better, I use 2 pixel spread on the green plate at the beginning, and one is connected to the normal key. The idea is very simple. The first pixel spread expanding the subject edge and bring that edge back until to the same shape in the second node. That makes soften edge artifact. Okay, let's try that. Add a pixel spread and make sure the split mode is set to expansion. And expand just little until getting to the point to clean the artifact. Okay, bring up one more pixel spread. Then this time change the mode contraction and bring the edge expansion back to the point where the plate is. As you can see, these 2 nodes soften only the edge of the artifact sets. And here's a comparison. It softened the artifact nicely. And here too. The rest of the structure is pretty much the same as usual comp. Sometimes these artifacts appear on the edge between high chroma difference plate. This tip may be usable on another type of comp to solve or refine your result. If you want to adjust the value, simply just adjust these 2 pixel spread nodes value. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.
All right, that was excellent, Famiro. Thank you so much. How long did it take you to come up with that?
Actually, it's I was experimenting so many different way to clean up edge, because after they came up, it's additive keyer is kind of recent the shader. I think maybe Joel announced way before, but it's basically grow up in the logic community. But if you see like a final comp result, does this shader, how beautifully key out, hair part well. But it's after they came up, that's shader. I was thinking how I can refine more about like a skin edge, because sometimes it's a interesting trend, because I'm still working some TV commercial job from Japan, and there's an interesting trend in Japan. They're using like an ultra bright blue screen as a chroma keying back plate, but sometimes it's appeared some kind of chroma shift on the edge of the skin, or sometime on the edge of costume. So I was discussing about this, how we can define this edge chroma shifting with my collaborators, and we exchanging so many examples, and also experience, then it came up maybe this 2 pixel spread maybe work for green screen cleanup.
No, it's great. I've seen like so many people, and by so many people I mean myself, try to solve this problem by either like making an edge matte and blurring the edge, but of course that leads to problems. But this is great. Thank you very much, man. Yeah. And I don't know how many of you saw on Logic, but the Krocmeister himself, Ivar, has expressed an interest in turning your technique into a Matchbox plugin. So, fingers crossed. I mean, having Ivar make you a Matchbox of something you did is like the closest thing we have to a Hall of Fame in our community. So, but it's a really great technique, and thank you so much for sharing. And,
thank you. Maybe if the people never used the frame, you may be surprised how clean, beautifully key out that's hair part in this one. It was just one node. Mm-hmm. So this shader came up from Logic community. So I'm really grateful about this community. Can discuss so many things and came up new tools for me.
That's great. Thank you. Yeah, that's I was talking about the Matchbox shaders for Flame, which are open and available free shaders that can be used for any kind of tool. And there's, I believe it's Matchbox, logic-matchbox.org is where you can go to download the entire collection of Matchbox shaders. And you're talking about Croc additive key. If I'm correct, yeah. So, but you can find the link on logic.tv to download all those. And again, Flamiro, thank you very much, man. It was really great and really nice to meet you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Absolutely. Our final 2 entries come from Madrid. First up is Gabrielle Garrido, who took first place in the 2016 One Frame of White contest. Gabrielle has always pushed the boundaries of what's possible in Flame, both creatively and technically, and his LogikFest entry was no exception. So how's it going? How you doing there, guys?
Fine, and you?
I'm doing great.
Thank you, Andy, for this amazing initiative, and obviously for Boris for support this contest.
Oh, 100%. Let me share my screen here one more time, and so we can take a look at your submission.
Hi guys, I'm Gabrielle Garrido from Madrid, Spain. I would like to talk to you about this technique I use. It's a combination of light and IBL to get a kind of ray tracing effect, all right? Because here I have this thing with some simple part of the bottles and the background and the floor with 3 lights. But what happened? This in this case, this area light doesn't cast me red light from the left side of the frame. And the top area is working very, very far to get this top light, all right? And in these cases, I use the light for cast shadows in a combination with this method of IBL. I have a green room IBL, and I convert it to a cubic to explain you what is happening, all right? And this part of the cubic is my background. This is my foreground, top, bottom, and my side, all right? I use an image, right, in a context. All right, this is my scene. Only working the IBL, all right, but I don't want the red light. For that, I increase, right, maybe 3, all right? And changing the shape, I get the red light casting from my left, all right? Yeah, with a little soft, all right? Perfect. Maybe this bottom area, everything will happen, the bottom area is better erase, all right? Maybe here. The gain in 0, all right, with maybe a little soften, yeah, maybe. All right, and I want a front light to get some maybe like this, yeah, some reflection in front of the object. And maybe if I move, yeah, we have even in the background, all right? And thanks to these shapes, we can control everything over the object and the illumination, all right? Then I add, in this case, well, yeah, this little blue box to add some ray tracing effect in this part as a reflection of my background. And finally, here the same composition with a couple of details, like soft-tone PBRs from my projectors and an steam reflection without any light. Here is my base. Obviously, then I can add some shadow cast from real light, well, real, you know, to improve the integration, but this is the process I wanted to share with you. I hope you like it. All right. Thanks, guys. Bye.
All right. Yeah. What is real at this point? Right?
What is real?
What is real?
That's true.
I used this. I saw your submission here, and it was like I was working that same day on this jewelry spot. I had the client give me some footage they shot of a necklace, and their notes were like it wasn't lit from the top or wasn't lit from the back, so I had to recreate that with 3D Shape. Yeah, and I was struggling with how to light it, and this just like fell into my lap like a gift from the gods here, and like I just used it that day. Fantastic technique.
Thank you so much. I have a little build to explain a little more this process. If I can share my screen.
Sure.
Let me see. Maybe. Well, another process is when I saw this image when Will and Stefan visited us in Madrid a couple of years ago. I saw this floor, this light floor, and I imagine a discotheque. What can achieve this kind of light? Well, in that moment, they show us this new technology called new light types. We don't have it yet. I hope someday. But with this idea, I use this. I get a little noise, a PAL size. With a resize, I get this checkerboard color. You know, this noise is too fast. And with the grid, I subtract it, and well, I get this checkerboard. Only one frame. And with two histogram and time warp, we get this light process, you know. Then the IBL, in this case, is only 4 colors, the same colors of my floor, the checkboard. But in this case, it's working only in the bottom part of my frame. This is a lat long, not a cube. It's a lat long, right? You can use a lat long wherever, but in this case, it's a lat long. But it's connected with this animation, hue animation from my checkboard is the same of my IBL. And when the checkboard, my floor, is changing the color, obviously my IBL had the same change. Well, a little more average, a couple of color correction to download the light and to try to achieve what happened in the floor of discotheque. Well, this is my scene with the surface and a simple shader and a couple of Matchbox camera effects to get this glow. And this and there is my IBL working over our character. And if you can see, when the light, this checkboard is changing, the IBL is working from bottom to the top part of our character. It's working without any light, all right?
That is the coolest thing I have ever seen.
Yeah.
Oh my God!
Finally, yeah.
Oh, of course.
With music, rhythm, we can celebrate our new version of Flame. Thanks for this amazing team of developers, and thank you so much.
Oh my God! Oh, that's the best. That's great. The chat room is going wild.
That's awesome.
Great job, man. That's great.
Thank you, man. Always was a pleasure.
Does anybody have any questions for Gab? All right. Let's move on to Jorge.
Oh, yes. The winner.
Yeah,
our
right.
winner.
Oh, hey guys.
All right.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye, buddy. Thank you. Hello, Jorge.
Hello, Andy. How are you? Thank you
Good,
for
my
being
friend.
here. Thank you for everybody to come.
Oh, of course. Of course, of
And
course.
well, now I feel the pressure of being the last one.
That's what we say. That's right, man. You had a great technique for getting the most out of the new ML face maps tool, right? So let me, for the final time here, share my screen, and we'll take a look at your submission.
Hey guys, I'm Jorge Febrero from Madrid, Spain, and I want to show you a couple of tricks I use sometimes that can be helpful if you want to use the face maps Matchbox, mostly for relighting, but for many other things also. So, first thing we sometimes find is that face maps is very promising, but we can't really use it in production yet. The image is shaking and flickering, we have holes here and there, so we usually discard it and try other ways. But there are some things we can do if we have the time to get a nice normal map. The first one is trying to help the machine to zoom to the limits of the face so the AI understands better what we're asking for. Here, this second resize is inverting the first one using an expression so we can see in context what's happening. This is what you get at first. This is what you get if you use the zoomed image, okay? Of course, the closer we go, the better, always with a limit. And we have now a better resolution normal map, but we still have the flickers, the shakies, and the holes. So we're going to choose a frame to work on. Here in this action, I imported a sphere and moved it to the corner, and I activated the matte and the normal output, okay? In order to compete over our normal map. So in a paint, we can, by picking in the sphere, we can like complete the rest of the areas we are missing, yet, etc. Okay. Here I went for a really fast paint, and of course, after you're done, you can get rid of the sphere and just go boom. Next step is just an easy motion vectors track. So now we have a nice starting point, okay? Then, depending on the shot, the old map extractor can give us the hairs or maybe some details that we would never want to paint. And with a fast difference matte, with double color, we can get a matte and we can comp it over our normal map. So we would be more or less like here. 90% of the times, we're going to use this for the lighting, okay? Here in this action node, we have just a surface with our normal map applied, a shader and my own lights setup, okay? So here you can see it's a really fast example of the lighting, and maybe now we can help it with maybe a light source or maybe a lens flare, and of course using light passes and color corrections, in this case maybe to add this red indirect light. So this more or less is something that we can get. But the point is that with this normal map, you can get some other things. It's not only about the relighting. Here I prepared some fast examples, so you can have a look. Here I have the same surface, the normals, the same lights, and the shader. In this case, changing the shader parameters, we can get maybe some nice looks like this. A step further, if we combine this same surface with the same normal map, in this case with an IVL and a substance PBR, maybe we can get a gold CGI mask, for example. Or maybe in this last one, I'm using a stars matchbox as an IVL, the same surface with a normal map applied, a substance PBR, and the replica node in order to have a lot of light movement. So we can get maybe some crazy thing like this that can be helpful if you want to maybe recreate like a projections or lasers on the face. Of course, with some other elements, you can maybe get this kind of disco effect or something like this. Okay guys, thank you very much and see you around. If you have any doubt or any way to make this better, of course, just give us a shout.
Oh, that's excellent, man.
That's it.
Excellent. You know, my favorite thing about that is, you know, I know Francis and everybody else on the development team is trying very hard to figure out some of the temporal issues with the machine learning, and it's a huge problem. But what you've shown here is that there's still incredible value in that tool, and how to make the most of it. It's fantastic.
Yeah, and at least there are some things that we can do with face maps nowadays. There's an important point to understand is that face map or any other machine learning family tool, they are let's say alive tools, because the results we get, they are always improving with every single update. In fact, I made this setup in Flame 2020.1, I guess it was, but I recorded the video in Flame 2020.3, and you could tell the difference. Just the plain result of the face match node, it was really better about these holes and this stuff. A couple versions more, and there couldn't be any video to make, because I'm pretty sure that eventually we will use these tools every single day. I have no doubt about it.
Oh, completely. Yeah, as the training it gets better, and the data sets get better, and the models get better. Yeah, these things keep improving.
That's it. As long as the system gets fed with every update, it's gonna be sooner than what we think.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Well, thank you very much, my friend.
Thank you.
All right. Does anyone have any questions for any of our panelists, or any of them, either from the Autodesk team or from one of the Logic Live submissions?
We'll keep an eye on the Q&A for a minute and see if anyone submits any additional ones for Flame team to answer, or any of the LogikFest participants as well.
There was some really cool stuff in there, Andy. It was crazy.
Oh, it's great stuff. I love it. I always love seeing what people come up with. We all start with the same tool set, and then seeing the kind of the variety of what people do with those tools is just fantastic.
Yeah. That's very cool.
Yeah, I was really impressed by how quickly people turned in all of those submissions, because I think you only announced LogikFest 4 or so weeks ago, and the submissions just poured in. So great.
Yep. Oh, it's great, and that's kind of like I said at the top. That's the essence of the user group community is sharing. We're all better for it. So thank you to everybody. And there's already been, I saw in the chat a couple of people saying, "Oh, I've got an idea for the next one," which is great. So we'll definitely run another one of these.
Great. Well, if we don't have any more questions, I'm just going to pull up my screen really quickly to close out. So I just wanted to say thank you on behalf of everyone who presented today, to everyone that joined us. I'm really excited that so many of you were able to join in, especially given the challenging times right now. So we appreciate you carving out a couple of hours to hang out with us. We got lots of questions about if this was being recorded and where it will be. So we're going to work really hard to get it up online on YouTube as quickly as possible. We'll be sharing that out on our Flame Facebook and Flame Twitter accounts. So look out for that in the next day or so. Also, many of you were asking about where you can go for Flame learning content. As Grant K mentioned, he runs the Flame Learning channel, which you can see the link for at the bottom there. Check it out for a ton of great tutorials and walkthroughs. And with that, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. We look forward to doing this again soon.
Stay safe, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.